episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every week, we have the privilege of coming to you to share really pertinent information about money, life, and everything else. We say on this show that money encompasses everything. And definitely education is everything as far as I'm concerned. So today's show is about education. And it's so important to us because, as you know, education is the gateway to great life and career opportunities. And it's very paramount if you want to secure a great future for your kids. So tonight's topic is an excellent STEM education matters. Why we want to talk about STEM education today? Because our guest tonight, our friend tonight is Dr. Regine. Dr. Regine is going to talk to us about one of the most innovative and forward-thinking school that I've ever heard about. And she's the founder and CEO of that school. And she's going to talk to you about it, why she decided to start this school, especially in marginalized communities, and how you and your family can take advantage of this great opportunity, because information about enrollment will be available to you tonight as well. So please let your friends know, especially those with school-aged children. They need to know about options. This is a great option for those who are looking to provide a comprehensive, culturally competent education to their children. Without further ado, let me welcome our guest for today, Dr. Regine. Why don't you introduce yourself briefly, and we're going to dive into this great conversation with you tonight. But before I do that, please share, let your friends know that we are on tonight, because this is information. It's not only for you, it's also for them. Thank you very much. Dr. Regine, please introduce yourself briefly.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Regine Filippo. I'm an educator of 24 years. I've been a classroom teacher, a researcher at a university, and most recently, a senior leader in a well-known public school system. So just thankful for Gabrielle for having me on this show.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you being on the show tonight. I know you go by Dr. Regine, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Dr. Rasheed. I just want to say I'm so grateful for you being on the show tonight. I know that when I was introduced to you by a mutual friend, and he wanted me to have a conversation with you because he knows how important education is to me, and also how important community is to me as well. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, because I posted your mini bio online. But yeah, let us know about how did you get involved? How did you yourself got interested in STEM education? And yeah, who influenced you? Who inspired you to get into it? And what type of education have you obtained since then?
Sure. So I think I'm someone who just loves children and giving to children and educating children. And that was something that I think God put in my heart from the time I was a child. But the truth is that I didn't know that I was going to go into education. So in fact, I was very, very strong in science and mathematics. And so all of my teachers encouraged me to do engineering, and almost everyone in my family is an engineer. So I went to Columbia University School of Engineering. And while I was there were the folks who were Black and brown. And as a matter of fact, many of the American students, period, were having a lot of more challenges than international students. And our Black and brown students, even more so, because some of the, you talk about cultural competence, but some of the cultural mismatches, right, that we see in education spaces. So I remember thinking while I was in engineering school, what would it mean for us to properly prepare young people, especially people who look like me, for this type of environment, for Columbia University School of Engineering, right? Knowing what engineering school felt like and was like, how the complex work that we were doing. It was, again, the challenging work that we were doing. And I remember thinking that to myself, but saying, Regine, you're not going to really do this. In my senior year, I said, no, I am going to go into education. And that's when I made the decision to go into teach. And I was a math teacher for a number of years. And then I got into research where I looked at the type that I think it was the first experience where I looked at the type of education that really produces outcomes, great results for children like ours.
Mhm.
And that gets us to a point where children can get into a Columbia University, right? School of Engineering. And in my research, I started to find out more about what inquiry learning looks like, project-based learning looks like. And eventually, I think my path went from research to practice, and I ended up in Boston launching an initiative called Excellence for All, and where I really got to pilot all of these ideas, all of this work that I had been doing for years and years. And it was pretty successful in Boston. So if people want to Google Excellence for All Boston Public Schools, they can. Later on, I became a deputy chief in Boston. And it was at that point I decided, I think it's time. I think it's time to bring all this knowledge, all this experience to the community that I love.
Correct, the community that you love. And not just like full disclosure, you and I both are from Haiti. We were born in Haiti, and I know that's why it's so important to know that we have folks in the community. We'll talk about the agape love for community in a minute. But yeah, why don't we just talk about it now? Because I know you said, you know what, after 24 plus years of giving to other communities, and perhaps, of course, students from our community, but you wanted to start your own school. So
That's
can
right.
we talk about, like, when did you decide to start the school? When did you open the school, and what have you, and why is this school different from some of the other schools that we are familiar with?
You might have to remind me of some of the questions. I'm going to try to answer them, all of them. So I actually posted a something on LinkedIn recently that talked about the process that I went through to leave a pretty secure position, pretty secure a career, and then to start my own, right? And it was really because I thought, you know, our community needs something like the Excellence for All model, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But it was so successful in Boston. And I had seen it because of, you know, it was during COVID. There were lots of things going on. I had seen it become deprioritized. And a group of us parents sat in a salon, living room one day, and we were just talking about our children and the things that they were experiencing during the pandemic. And we know that the racial microaggressions that our kids experience, this was exacerbated during the pandemic. And we were talking about that. And we were just going through lots of different topics, including, well, why isn't my kid doing X, Y, and Z? Because they can do more and they're bored and they're this. And I think all the parents at one point turned around and looked at me and said, hey, you have a successful model. Why don't we start a school? Why don't we start an organization? And I said, why don't we? Now, I'm not going to lie. Like, at first I was like, that's a lot of work. But then upon second thought and just seeing the beauty of our people, the beauty of our children, I said, why not? Why am I fighting systemic challenges when we can do this for ourselves? So that's how this idea was born. And ask me the other questions, because I don't know.
You mentioned that. I remember when we were having conversation. Let me also say that I know you have a specific targeted audience, not audience, but the market that you're targeting includes very much so the Haitian community. And I know parler un petit créole, oui? Yeah. So any given moment, the spirit want to lead you and moves you. Please feel free to say something.
Sure.
Because I just heard you say salon.
Oui.
Yeah.
Nous
So,
tout tap
okay,
chita
we
lon
can,
sa,
yeah,
son
go ahead.
canapé, et puis tout le monde vire, yo di Regine, pour ça nous va ouvrir l'école. And I said,
Yeah,
okay, you know,
okay.
the story goes from there.
Yeah. So we believe in language justice on this show. So, but we do it in English because it's a lot easier for us, but it is what it is. But yeah, I was asking, because I know you mentioned that 2 years ago during the pandemic, that's when you and your and the relationships that you had around you, the families were saying like, listen, we need something different. We need something perhaps better for our kids. And that's when you started. So you just talked about the decision, but also I think why did you decide to focus on STEM with an additional A? Because I know there's a debate between STEM S.T.E.A.M versus the STEM S.T.E.A.M. So can we talk
Right.
about that perhaps? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to tell parents that I don't engage in those debates because to me, I try to give as many opportunities as possible. The way that we think about arts is probably a little different than most people think about the A in STEAM.
Yeah.
And it's because there's a recognition that there is an artistic um, component to designing. So
Right.
engineers, folks who do technology, they are designers, right? And so because of that, we need to foster that kind of creativity in our students. So that's how we think about the A. But we do respect and love the traditional art. We think that helps to bring about creativity as well. And so I don't say no to any of those. So whether it is something like visual arts or just encouraging creativity within engineering, the A has to be present.
Yeah. So we just want to reiterate that for those who are not familiar, can we go over what the STEM and STEAM education, what does that stand for those who know?
Okay, so when you see S.T.E.A.M, STEM, that stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The field really came up with this terminology because of the importance that science and mathematics had in driving the economy, right? And so it's not something that I saw 20, 30 years ago. It's a fairly new terminology. Now, STEAM, S.T.E.A.M, folks started to put in A for the arts. And many of my colleagues were talking about traditional things in the arts. So when we think about performing arts or visual arts, that's what they were talking about. But again, for me, I go a little further than that because I see how creativity really means a lot when we're designing. And so could you imagine someone doing architecture without someone who has a design eye? Right? What does that house look like? Right? What do those designs look like? So I think the A is important. And so that's part of the reason why we included the A when we decided to do the school.
And I think I like physical arts and music. My sister had mentioned to me is an engineer. She also plays the piano. She's been playing it for years. And for me, for her, it's like an avenue to release stress as well. So you gotta have a comprehensive education. And I think adding the A is really gonna give our children the opportunity to have a holistic and comprehensive education. So I'm on that side of the debate. Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, I just wanted to say again, you started the school, and I know we've mentioned not only because you were in an environment that had very few who looked like you. I've been there, at universities where one of the only student there. So and then you had mentioned that 5% of engineers have people of color. So why is it important, like for parents who are watching or saying like, well, this woman studied the school, how would that, now and in the future help my kids? So can we talk about the fact that we have a huge need to integrate this industry?
Absolutely. So one of the things, the last time I looked at the data, about 20% of the jobs market share, I would say, I call it market share, it's not exactly market share, but is really STEM. And as I was doing more research, that percentage was growing. So STEM is becoming a more important aspect of all jobs. And as a matter of fact, even in non-STEM positions, STEM learning or technology is becoming increasingly important. And we know that. Look at the way in which the media in which we're engaging right now. That wasn't possible when we were young, right? So we see the inclusion of STEM in non-STEM related fields. And that is only going to continue and become even more important. So from any vantage point, so whether or not you are going to be a scientist, an engineer, someone in technology, or you are someone who's interested in a non-STEM field, really STEM learning is going to be essential for you in the future. And what has happened in the past is our people, immigrants, folks who are historically marginalized, Black children, brown children, our communities get left out. Right. And so the statistics that you talk about is a statistic that the Pure Research Center, NSF, has out there. About 4.8 to 5% of all engineers are Black. Yeah. Why is that? If that's a growing share of the job market, why is that? And that cannot continue. So when you say money matters and financial stability, generational wealth matters, then we're going to get left behind if we don't teach our children these essential skills.
And especially if we have not received, the children who are interested in that field, if they have not received the competent education so that they can they'll be able to position themselves and be confident enough to go into those universities and say, yes, I belong. And yes, I can go work because I've been trained properly. I've been taught properly on how to be ready for that environment. The reason I said that because I mentioned last week that my sister was an engineer, and she is, but she left the field. She's no longer working in the field because of the environment. And when you have 5% of people who look like you at a company, and many times you are one of two, one of one, it's very important to know that you have to have had the background, right, of really be assertive to handle.
Well, see, that's the other important piece for me. And when you say, what is my why? That's the other part of my why, right? So I do have a love of science and mathematics in general. That's true. STEM takes a growing share of the job market. That is true, and that's very important for us. But the other piece to it is the obstacles that I had to overcome as a Black woman, as a Haitian woman, when I was in those spaces, right? And it started from when I was much younger, like, the school that I went to, I was always one of the only. And I remember saying to myself, does that mean that people like me can't do this? And what does that say about me and my chances, right? And so I can't take away the fact that I can't change environment, an all-white environment, right? But what I can do is instill confidence.
Right.
That's very important, right? Because that was the difference between some of my peers and myself, me constantly doubting myself and saying that I can and I can't. And some of folks who say, no, of course I can, and fighting through the challenges. So we wanted to have an environment where our kids, our scholars really understood their value, really understood that their brilliance, their natural brilliance, and that we were enhancing that by providing the skills and the content knowledge they need to be successful for later on in life.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said to everyone, I'm so glad my elementary school was done in Haiti, because that had equipped me to be confident enough to come here and do what I've done over the years. But I wanted to now talk about the school that you have, the school that just opened. and you are receiving, you are actually welcoming new scholars into the school to enrollment for this year. The name of the school is Dessalines Academy, right?
Dessalines STEAM, yes.
STEAM Academy. So I remember looking online where it says Dessalines, you chose the name Dessalines because it embodies what? Do you want me to read it, or you remember
You can go and read it.
Okay.
I have
But you say it embodies the spirit of knowledge, independence, liberation, and agape love for community. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the Saline School. I know you've shared a lot so far, but yeah, why would a parent, of all the different options, private school, public schools, homeschool, why would they choose to send their kids to the Saline STEAM Academy?
I think that phrase probably says a lot, right? It says it all. Uh, that we are teaching your children to be innovative, but also to be leaders. And I was going to use the word fighters, but what I mean is to fight for what is rightfully theirs, right, in society. They are brilliant. They are our future. They are leaders. And so what Dessalines showed, and we did a study, we always do a study of Dessalines every year, every year. What Dessalines showed is the spirit of persistence and of understanding who his people really were. And they were not these lack of a better word, imbecile. They weren't slaves. No, they were free men who were enslaved, and that was not their rightful position. So it is not our rightful position to be in poverty. It's not our rightful position to lack knowledge. In fact, we are the opposite. And so we embody that. And I would also say that we try to join and to intersect this idea with great research-based techniques, right? Again, I'm a doctor of education. This is what I studied. I was a researcher. This is exactly not just what I studied in school, but what I studied in my research, right? So when you say why choose us, we are a micro school, so we are in between a private and a homeschooling space. But it allows us flexibility to be responsive to your child and to develop the scholarship needed to be successful in life. So I would say I've been looking for this type of environment for my children for such a long time. And so in building it, I built it myself and Tony Ann Williams, she's my co-founder. We built it so that our children can also attend. So if my children can also attend, that means that I want the best, right? And so I want the best for you, and I want the best for myself. So I'll stop there.
But Dessalines, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, that's Haiti's very independent. He was our very first emperor, but also to the men who led us to the freedom that we still fighting for today, you know?
That's right.
I just want to say, yeah, definitely. You mentioned micro school, meaning like the classroom so small. I know we talked about cohorts because I never really did anything cohort like until I went to grad school. So can you explain like why is it important for our kids to learn in a cohort environment, and also to the setting of the classroom? Because I know you had mentioned they are upperclassmen and lowerclassmen in the same young people in the same classroom because they're learning from one another. Explain that for us, please, for parents who are interested.
Right. So we have a cohort model, and so our cohort. By the way, our cohorts are named. We changed their names. They're named after Haitian cities, cities in Haiti. And so your child will learn with students and other scholars who are a little younger, scholars who are a little older than they are. What that does for us, and this is our philosophy, is that it allows us the flexibility to push beyond the grade level. And this is something that we talked about, the fact that we teach at the highest grade level in that cohort. at first, and then we continue beyond that, right? It also allows them to build unbelievable social skills. Our oldest become leaders. Our youngest see the leadership and emulate that. We have what I like to say a personalized system. And so that personalization is we design and customize the curriculum based on the students we actually have, which is why parents who have students with some special needs, moderate disabilities, are interested in this kind of environment. We say that we're not a public school, so we cannot guarantee all of the services, but come and see if that it would be we would serve your child well, is why we welcome you to ask us questions. And then this environment, what I have seen this year is that more than anything, it pushes boundaries because of how much we push them, the complex work, right? So it pushes the social skills, it pushes their learning, and ultimately it says to them that the grade is not a limitation, right? So you can learn beyond your grade. We introduced, so some people do physical science in the middle school. Our middle school cohort, they actually do physics. And I remember the teacher saying to me, but you don't do this until college. And Tony and I said, well, at first we said so. And then we said, well, how do we introduce it to them so that it makes sense right now? And then how do we build on the complexity of the concept so that what a college level student is doing, our students can do, right? So we don't push them beyond what they can do, but what's amazing is they can do so much if we actually push. Like that's a perfect example of that. Yeah. So that is a benefit of this kind of environment in the cohort model.
Yeah, I like the idea of innovative space learning and the idea of a cohort model where you get to learn from one another. The students are not in isolation. It's so important that if you're gonna build leadership skills, you have to be able to lead, right? And
you have to be able to
early
lead.
on is very important. And then I know we had mentioned a more integrated education where the kids have an opportunity to go on field trips and to really have real practices, because practice matters. It's not just like theory, but practical learning is very important, correct?
It does.
We did also mention the individualized education program that is available to some. In the public school, they have individualized education program, but it's mostly for those who have disabilities. But at your school, it's available to all. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I do want to just clarify that for 1 second. And before I answer that, I wanted to say something about the model that we use, because you talked about hands-on learning. So the model that we use is we call it an inquiry-based, culturally responsive instructional model, right? And so inquiry is exactly what it sounds like. You are inquiring. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about, if you want to know more information about something, I'm going to use a non-real, I guess my pastor would probably be like, but like, let's say there's something juicy happening and you want to know more. What do? Right? You ask questions, you ask more questions, you seek out information. And in many cases, depending on what the situation may be, you might set up an experiment or set up an interview or, whatever the case may be. But the fact is that you are constantly seeking, and you're seeking in different ways. And so this idea of going someplace, or what I call place-based learning, service-based learning, those are us going to other places, doing other kinds of activities to seek information and incorporate new learnings into what we already know. So that inquiry model is very, very important. In terms of, for those of us who have students or children that they've been tested and they either need a 504 plan or an IEP. IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan. That is a plan that your public school has to support a child that has a disability. We are honest with parents that we're small and we are a private institution. And so we cannot guarantee all of the services that a public school can. But what we did do, and Tony Ann is her degree, my co-founder, her degree is in special education. What we did do is design for learning differences. So we ended up having students whose parents are like, the public school is not helping, despite the fact that we have an IEP. Why don't we try your school? And they did well. Again, because we're always customizing for that particular student, right? So if the student needs a rule-based reading program, we're trying to get that student that rule-based reading program. If they need more manipulatives, right, as part of to understand a math concept, well, we use manipulatives anyway. It's part of the way that we teach. If they need more media, so in terms of it's just a more dynamic way of teaching, and it ends up being kids who have moderate disabilities end up doing okay and actually well, right? The one student that had a disability in mathematics, he was at grade level at the end of the year. So I say to parents, I cannot guarantee it, so it's not guaranteed. But again, if you want to try, you're welcome to try. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. We would never say, if we take your child, we would never say that a scholar can't do it. We're always, again, designing and customizing for your child. But if you say, okay, Regine, or Dr. Regine, I think we're going to go back to the public school. What's best for your child is what's best for your child.
Definitely. So if you're a parent who's sitting here watching or will be watching and you said, I've been thinking about a smaller environment for my kids, a micro school. I've been thinking perhaps doing homeschool, but I don't have the bandwidth to do homeschooling myself or the resources to do it myself. You definitely want to reach out to Dr. Regine and talk to her about joining the Saline S.T.E.A.M Academy, because this is a school for parents who are looking for specialized education, an education that makes sense, but an education that is culturally competent for your kids, and they'll have an opportunity to see reflection of themselves every single day. It's so important, but at a high level,
That's right.
not being watered down. So with that being said, I know the school doesn't have capacity for endless students. So can we talk about capacity and the grade level that you are welcoming this year?
Right. We have the capacity for 30 more scholars, 30 more students, from pre-K to grade 8. We will eventually go up to 12, but right now it's pre-K to 8. And we are offering 5 scholarships, so totally free, for students who are in the middle school, so 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
And it needs to be a family that we're looking for, family that probably cannot afford the tuition, which I don't know. Am I free to say what the tuition is?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. Actually, before you do that, so you said enrollment you're looking for right now, the maximum capacity is 30, and you have right now you are enrolling K to 8. Great.
Pre-K, so 4-year-olds to grade 8.
To grade 8. And I know that we talked about how many teachers per students, and you had mentioned that maximum 12, right? Can you please share? Yeah.
Yes. So we cap it at 12 in a cohort.
All right.
So
So each 12 students per
12
teacher.
students per teacher.
So much smaller than your regular high school or the other schools. Definitely. So yeah. So my next question definitely was gonna be about education is not free, it's not inexpensive. So yeah. But in my opinion, it's always well worth it. I tell you, it's priceless to me. So therefore, what is the price tag for your school, and what are some of the ways that parents can navigate through that fee? Yeah.
Um, so this year we set it at 5,000 for the entire year.
Mhm.
Um, if you know what the price of education, you know that that's very low for this type of a program. And so I'm constantly fundraising. We set it at 5,000 because we know that we can't go any lower than that and still operate. But we also want it to be accessible for most of the families in our target communities, which are our historically marginalized communities. Everyone is free to come, but again, we target historically marginalized communities, low-income communities, Black and Brown communities. And so, I mean, hopefully you'll ask me about fundraising. So if someone wants to
Yeah,
donate,
yeah. I was thinking like so the tuition, the $5,000 is for
yes,
all grades, right? K to
it is. Yes.
okay.
Typically the younger ones are a little more expensive. But this, we said, we don't think our families, we want to just be fair to our families. So we capped it at 5,000.
So what about if you have multiple kids? Do you get a group discount? You get a family discount, a family yeah, if you have multiple
Yes,
kids, if you're interested in having multiple kids go joining the school. Yeah.
yes. But I don't want to say exactly what it is because I don't remember. I have to talk to my director of operations. But
Yeah,
yes,
I'm asking you because I know I've had friends in private school, children in private school, and they're always talking about these same things. And also too, we talked about the fact that there are multiple ways to fund for education. We were talking about how it's so important to provide, to give your kids or the young people in your environment the gift of education. And that's why on this show, Let's Talk Money with Friends, we've talked about for college savings, the 529. But if you have a baby right now being born, and my friend, one of the very active members of Let's Talk Money with Friends, she's expecting, she's about to give birth anytime now, being able to set up a Coverdale account so you can start saving money every single year, giving your children the gift of education, letting other people contribute to that savings account so that they can have the money that they need to go to elementary school and secondary, elementary school, high school, those type of accounts you can actually set up for them. Coverdale education savings account. So do that, parents. But if you have not done that and your kids are going to school now, you just mentioned there are 5 scholarships that are available for need-based, right? Or is it merit-based?
yeah, needs based. So if you're a low income family and you have a student that is in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, please connect with us. We're looking for 5 students.
All right. But in addition to that, we're talking about offline. If you don't have kids and you're someone who believes in education,
Yes.
you can also go on your website, which will have it linked, and I've had it linked throughout the week here. Donate and giving a child a gift of education, because those 5 scholarships, you are able to do that through donations, correct?
Yes, we are. Last year it was really the generous hearts, generous donors that allowed us to operate despite the fact that we're small. And this year, this is what I'm doing. I'm constantly calling and Our board member is constantly talking to folks about donating, because I want to make sure that the best is available to you, to families. And so don't think that $10 doesn't matter. So let's say you give $10 every month and you ask 10 of your friends to do the same thing, or $25. That makes a difference. That allows us to buy books. That allows us to buy materials. And if you are someone who's well-resourced, you've gone through college and beyond, or you're a business owner and you're well-resourced and you want to give more, we would really appreciate your support. So
yeah, that
please
gift of
donate.
education is so important because education matters. We said it jokingly offline that for me personally, after God, education is the next best thing for me. So I believe in sowing a seed of that gift of education. So if you are someone who believes in it and want to sow a seed, definitely you want to sow that seed, because we will reap a harvest when we have young people who are thoroughly equipped to do good work. And the work that they're going to be doing in the future is going to impact us when we are all old and gray. We at the hospital. Can you imagine the child that you helped to go to Dessalines S.T.E.A.M Academy? Now he's a doctor and he's the one coming to cure your issues. I'm looking forward to
Can
that.
I just mention that when I had my last child, the point that you made is so important. I almost actually didn't make it with my first. And when we talk about health inequities in our communities, especially Black women, it's because that's a big topic now. I had the best experience for my last pregnancy. I had a doctor who was from our community. My primary, the OBGYN was a Black doctor from Africa. And then the other doctor, the one that gives you the PQ in your back,
General, I don't know.
Anesthesiologist.
Oh, okay, yes. For the epidural, right? Yes.
Right. He, because I had a C-section. He was a young Haitian man. And I have never felt so comfortable. I've never been so cared for. It felt so good. And again, this is the type of impact we can have if we support a school like Dessalines.
Yep.
As you were saying.
I mean, that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I believe in education, and that's why I support it. Because I know that someday soon, maybe in the next generation, 25 years from now, those young people are going to be leaders in our community. We have to train them today. What we want to see tomorrow, we got to do today. So yes, I would encourage you, whether you have children, like I said, I was like, oh, if I had kids, this would be, I would be enrolling in your school this year. But you know what? I don't have to have kids to give to that community of forward thinker. You guys are forward thinkers. You are innovative educators, and we want to support that. So again, we just want to reiterate that your school right now, the Dessalines S.T.E.A.M Academy, is located where? Can you tell? And then the website and information about how to enroll this year. And we already talked about space is limited, so it's first come. You gotta, if you want your kids to experience something innovative, you gotta do it quickly. Please share.
We're located in Brockton. We just secured a location, which is why we're starting a little late. And I don't give out the exact location just until a parent calls us, but we are definitely in Brockton. And you can find both the interest form and eventually the application. I want to make sure on our website. So the interest form allows you to connect with us. It has the phone numbers of two of our directors if you want to talk to us. We then contact you and we set up an information session. Or if you would like to apply directly, the application will be on the website at the end of this week.
Right.
We ask that you complete the application as soon as possible, because in a week or by the 17th, we need to have our enrollment set. And then school starts on August 28th.
Brilliant. Yes, call and get some more information. Again, we are running out of time, but I want to say thank you, Dr. Regine, for being on the show tonight. And we just want to say again, if you are a parent and you're looking for more specialized and comprehensive education for your child, this is the place to call. Call Dessalines STEAM Academy. Dr. Regine here and her staff will help you. Private education, some folks have opted for private education, but a more specialized education, I believe probably will make sense. If you think about it, will make more sense for your kids. There's a lot going on right now, negativity in the school system. But if you want to have an alternative, again, this is the school for you. A classroom with 12 students who are learning from one another and being able to do field trips and going. I remember you had mentioned that the kids are going to different businesses and doing presentation, learning how to be assertive, learning how to be confident at a very young age. That's what we need, okay? Parents want their kids to be educated, and they need to know about themselves. They need to know about their history. And I just love the fact that because Brockton has a large group of one of the largest group of minorities, I think, Haitians, right? And many of them probably would contact you. The fact that their kids are going to be going to a Dessalines school, so they'll learn a little bit about history, because you talked about the curriculum having Haitian history as part of it, and also we are, so it's very important to know your history, because I'm very sure, because I know where I came from and I know what I'm all about. So yeah, you want your kids to be very sure of who they are. Having that confidence is very important. So yeah, last word, Dr. Regine, would you like to say one last word for parents who are like, yeah, this sounds great, and let me consider it? What should they do tomorrow or even tonight?
I say, please contact us right away. So even if you are still undecided, because space is limited, fill out the interest form. We'll contact you right away. We'll answer your questions. I will also say that this is the type of education that I've dreamed of. I'm not saying that we're perfect, but I am saying that we are innovative, that we customize, that we know our history, that we love your children. We teach them to love their neighbors and to love their peers, to have respect for the adults who love them. And so that kind of education, unfortunately, is hard to find. So even when you go to the private school, again, my son was in a private school. Even when you're in the private schools, that type of combination is hard to find. And so we want to create that for your precious bundle of joy.
All right. And I'm praying that you will be very successful
Thank
at
you.
had sowing such great seed in the lives of our young people. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for watching. Thank you for those of you who are going to be sharing, liking, and making a comment. Educating our kids is important. STEAM education is extremely important. It's important that you invest and give your kids that gift of education. Please contact Dr. Regine, contact the Dessalines STEAM Academy, and they will help really get your kids started to become the leaders that we're looking for. We need more doctors, we need more engineers, we need more lawyers, we need more everything in our community.
Yes.
And I'm willing to be part of the solution. Are you? The first thing you can do is get your kids an education, and then they'll be able to pay it forward. So thank you again for your time, Dr. Regine. Thank you, everyone. Please stay tuned for next week. We'll come back with a great episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. We say money encompasses everything. Education matters, but an excellent STEM education matters even more. Thank you. Have a blessed night.